She thought she hired just a maid. But what if that maid was actually the daughter she gave up years ago? This billionaire's wife is about to uncover the truth that will change her life forever. The echo of Christine's footsteps on the cracked pavement was the only sound in the still night. The city was quiet, almost indifferent to the storm raging in her heart. At just 18, she had experienced more pain than most women twice her age. Her hands trembled as she clutched the thin blanket around her shoulders. Inside that blanket was the most precious gift she had ever held: her newborn baby girl. Tears streamed down Christine's cheeks as she looked at the tiny face. The baby's skin was warm, her breathing soft and steady, her little lips making faint movements as though searching for comfort. Christine kissed her daughter's forehead. "I'm so sorry, my love," she whispered. "I wish I could give you everything, but I can't. Not now. Not like this." Her mind flashed back to the moment her world began to unravel. It had all started with Marcus, the man she thought she loved. He was charming, older, and full of promises. When she told him about the pregnancy, she thought he would stand by her side. But instead, his eyes turned cold. "Don't put this on me," Marcus had said sharply. "You deal with it. I want nothing to do with you or that child." The memory pierced her heart every time. She was left alone, rejected, and without support. Her parents were already struggling to keep food on the table. Christine had no job, no money, and no strength to raise a child alone. The weight of despair suffocated her. And so she made the most painful choice of her life. She gave her baby girl up for adoption, praying with all her might that a loving, wealthy family would take her in and provide the life Christine couldn't. As she handed her daughter over to the agency worker, Christine felt like a piece of her soul had been ripped away. Years passed. Christine buried the pain deep inside her heart, though it never fully left her. She worked tirelessly, determined to change her life. She eventually met Steve Harold, a successful white businessman whose ambition was matched only by his compassion. He was unlike Marcus, steady, kind, and committed. Steve loved Christine deeply, and she found in him a safe place to heal. They married, and Christine thought she had finally escaped the shadows of her past. But happiness was incomplete. For 5 long years, she and Steve tried to conceive, enduring countless tests, doctor visits, and prayers. The emptiness inside Christine grew heavier, her longing to nurture a child overwhelming. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the miracle happened. Christine discovered she was pregnant. Her joy was indescribable. She wept in Steve's arms the night she told him. His blue eyes glistened with tears as he kissed her forehead. "We're going to be parents, Christine." Finally. As her pregnancy progressed, Christine requested something unusual. One evening, sitting by the fireplace in their luxurious mansion, she looked at Steve with gentle eyes. "I want a personal maid," she said. Steve raised an eyebrow. "A maid? Darling, we already have staff." Christine shook her head. "I know. But this is different. I want someone who'll be with me constantly, someone I can trust through this pregnancy. I'll feel safer with that." Steve thought about it and eventually agreed. He contacted an agency that specialized in domestic staff, asking them to send someone trustworthy. A week later, Christine stood in the grand living room, her heart fluttering as the agency representative introduced a young woman named Karen. She was tall, graceful, and carried herself with quiet dignity. Her skin glowed with deep brown richness, and her dark eyes held a certain depth, a quiet strength shaped by hardship. The moment Christine looked at her, her heart skipped. There was something unsettlingly familiar about the young woman. Christine's gaze lingered on Karen's features, the shape of her lips, the arch of her eyebrows, the way her smile seemed to hold warmth even in silence. You look familiar," Christine said, her voice barely above a whisper. Karen shifted uneasily. "I don't think we've met, ma'am." Christine searched her eyes for a clue, but all she found was politeness. She forced a smile. "Perhaps I'm mistaken. Still, The feeling gnawed at her, but Christine pushed it aside, convincing herself it was pregnancy hormones playing tricks on her mind. From the start, Christine treated Karen with warmth and respect. Unlike many wealthy women who barked orders at their maids, Christine often engaged her in conversations. She asked about her day, her dreams, and even offered her a seat at the table on rare occasions when Karen seemed weary. Karen was touched by this kindness. She had worked in homes where she was invisible, where her name was rarely spoken, and her presence barely acknowledged. But here she felt seen. Over the weeks, Karen became more than just a maid. She became a confidant. Christine shared her fears about motherhood, her joy over feeling the baby kick, and her gratitude for life's second chances. But fate was about to stir the buried past. One evening, Christine was resting in her bedroom. The air was cool, the curtains swaying gently with the breeze from the half-open window. Karen had just finished tidying the room when she heard a sudden thud. "Ma'am?" Karen's voice trembled. She turned and saw Christine collapsed on the floor, unconscious. Panic surged through her veins. "Oh my God." Karen dropped to her knees, shaking Christine gently. "Ma'am, wake up." There was no response. Karen rushed to the intercom, calling for the driver. "Bring the car around, now. Mrs. Harold has fainted." Within minutes, they were speeding toward the hospital. Karen held Christine's hand tightly in the back seat, whispering, "Please, please be okay. You've been so kind to me. Please don't leave me." At the hospital, doctors whisked Christine into the emergency ward. Karen paced the waiting area, her heart pounding. After what felt like hours, a doctor emerged. "Mrs. Harold's condition is stable, but her blood levels are dangerously low. She'll need a transfusion immediately." Karen's pulse quickened. "What's her blood type?" The doctor checked the chart. "Oh, positive." Karen felt a jolt in her chest. "That's my blood type too. Test me. I want to donate." The doctor hesitated. "Are you sure? It can be exhausting. I don't care. Do it, please." Minutes later, the tests confirmed it. Karen was a perfect match. Without hesitation, she rolled up her sleeve. As the needle pricked her arm, she closed her eyes, whispering silently, "If this is the one thing I can do for her, let me do it." Hours passed. When the transfusion was complete, Christine's color slowly returned. Her breathing steadied. Karen sat by her side, exhausted but relieved. Moments later, Steve Harold arrived, his face pale with fear. "Christine." He rushed to his wife's bedside, clutching her hand. "My love, are you all right?" The doctor explained what had happened, adding, "Your maid saved her life. The blood transfusion was possible because she was a perfect match." Steve turned to Karen, his eyes filled with gratitude. "You saved my wife. I'll never forget this." Christine stirred weakly, her eyes fluttering open. She looked around, her gaze settling on Karen. You gave me your blood?" Karen smiled faintly. "Yes, ma'am. I couldn't just stand by." Tears welled up in Christine's eyes. She squeezed Karen's hand weakly. "Thank you. You're more than I deserve." The room fell quiet, but the weight of what had just happened lingered heavily. As Christine drifted back into sleep, Steve turned to Karen. "It's remarkable. The doctor said the blood was a perfect match, not just in type, but in compatibility. That's rare." Karen nodded softly, unsure what to say. But Christine, though half asleep, caught the words. Her mind flickered with unease. Perfect match, rare compatibility. The thought lodged itself deep in her heart, refusing to let go. For the first time in years, the memory of the child she had given away came rushing back, her baby girl, lost to adoption. Christine's chest tightened. She stared at Karen, her heart racing. Could it be? Christine awoke the next morning to the soft hum of machines in her private hospital suite. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, warm and golden, but her mind was anything but calm. The doctor's words from the night before echoed in her head. Perfect blood match. She turned her head slightly and saw Karen sitting quietly by the window, her hands folded in her lap. There was a gentleness in her presence, like someone who belonged, not merely as an employee, but as something deeper, though Christine dared not say it aloud. "Karen," Christine said softly. Karen jumped a little, then smiled. "Good morning, ma'am. How are you feeling?" Christine's eyes softened. "Better. Thanks to you." Karen blushed, lowering her gaze. Anyone would have done the same. Christine shook her head faintly. "No, not anyone. But you did. You saved my life." There was a pause, filled with unspoken questions. Christine wanted desperately to ask about Karen's past, but she wasn't sure how to begin. So she waited until Steve arrived, carrying a bouquet of fresh lilies. "My love," Steve said warmly, kissing Christine's forehead. "You look better already." He set the flowers on the table and turned to Karen. "And you, thank you again. You've proven yourself more than we could have ever expected." Karen murmured something modest, but Christine noticed how her eyes flickered with emotion, grateful to be acknowledged, yet weighed down by something unseen. Later, when Steve stepped out to take a business call, Christine finally spoke. "Karen, can I ask you something?" Karen straightened. "Of course, ma'am." Christine hesitated, then said, "Do you know much about your family, your parents?" Karen blinked, caught off guard. Slowly, she shook her head. I don't really. I was adopted when I was very young. The people who raised me, they tried, but it never quite felt like home. After a while, I went into foster care again." Her voice trembled. "I've spent most of my life not knowing who my real parents are." Christine's breath caught in her throat. She felt tears burning behind her eyes. "So, you don't know anything at all? Not even a name?" Karen shook her head again. "Nothing. Just that I've always wondered who she was, my mother. If she ever thought about me. If she even cared." Christine's hand instinctively reached out, covering Karen's. The young woman stiffened at first, then relaxed under the warmth of her touch. "She cared," Christine whispered, her voice thick. "I'm sure of it. Sometimes life, it forces us into choices that break our hearts." Karen looked at her curiously. "Why do you say that?" Christine forced a smile. "Because I believe no mother could give up her child without a reason. Maybe she thought she was giving you a chance at a better life." Karen blinked back tears. "That's what I tell myself, that maybe she prayed for me, even if she couldn't keep me." Christine nearly broke down right there, but she swallowed the sob building in her chest. "Not yet," she told herself. "Don't scare her away." The days passed and Christine grew stronger, yet her curiosity deepened. Every glance at Karen felt like looking at a shadow of herself. The way Karen tilted her head when thinking, the subtle dimple that appeared when she smiled, even the mole on her left arm. It was all too familiar. One night, while Steve and Christine sat together in their bedroom, she finally unburdened her soul. "Steve," she said quietly, her fingers twisting the bedsheet. "There's something I've never told you." Steve looked up from his laptop. His eyes softened instantly when he saw her expression. "What is it, my love?" Christine inhaled deeply. Before our marriage, I had a child." Steve blinked in surprise but remained silent, allowing her to continue. "I was so young, barely 18. The man I loved abandoned me the moment I told him I was pregnant. My family had nothing and I had no way to provide. I gave her up for adoption." Her voice cracked. "It was the hardest decision of my life. I prayed every night that she'd find a family who could love her more than I ever could at the time." Steve reached for her hand, squeezing it firmly. "Christine, why didn't you ever tell me?" Shame clouded her eyes. "I thought if I buried it deep enough, it wouldn't hurt anymore. But now, after what happened with Karen, I can't stop thinking about her. The way Karen looks at me, the way she feels so familiar. Steve, could it be possible? Could Karen be? Her voice faltered. Steve sat back, processing. You think Karen might be your daughter? Christine nodded, tears spilling freely. It sounds crazy, I know. But my heart tells me something my mind can't deny. Steve was quiet for a moment, then spoke carefully. The resemblance is uncanny, I'll admit. But we need proof. For your peace of mind, and for hers. Christine swallowed hard. How? I'll arrange a DNA test, Steve said gently, discreetly. We won't tell her until we're sure. Over the next week, Steve worked behind the scenes. He spoke to a trusted doctor, arranging for samples to be taken under the pretense of routine health checks. Karen, unaware of the deeper purpose, complied without question. Christine lived in nervous anticipation, her heart racing every time the phone rang. Nights became restless, half filled with dreams of holding her baby again, half haunted by guilt. Finally, one afternoon, Steve walked into the living room holding an envelope. Christine's breath hitched. Is that? Steve nodded gravely. The results are in. Christine's hands trembled as she took the envelope. Slowly, she opened it, scanning the words through a blur of tears. Her heart pounded louder with every line until finally she gasped. It's her, she whispered. Steve, it's her. Karen is my daughter. Her knees buckled, and Steve caught her in his arms. She sobbed into his chest, years of buried pain flooding out. God gave me another chance, she cried. I never dreamed. Steve held her, his own eyes misty. This is a miracle, Christine. You found her. But fate wasn't done weaving its threads. That evening, as Christine and Steve discussed what to do next, their voices carried just a little too far down the hallway. Christine, Steve said softly, we need to think carefully about how to tell her. She's lived her whole life not knowing. This revelation could turn her world upside down. I know, Christine replied, her voice breaking. But she deserves the truth. She's my daughter, Steve. I can feel it in every part of me. Unbeknownst to them, Karen had returned early from the market and paused outside the door. Her ears caught the words, daughter, truth, adoption. Her heart froze. She pressed her back against the wall, her mind racing. Daughter, what are they talking about? Me? Confusion and fear swirled inside her. She listened harder, tears filling her eyes as Christine's muffled sobs reached her ears. Suddenly it all made sense, the strange familiarity, the kindness, the way Christine always looked at her as if searching for something lost. Karen's chest tightened painfully. Her whole life she had wondered about her real mother. Now, to discover that it might be the very woman she served every day, it was overwhelming. Without thinking, she fled. Her footsteps echoed down the marble hall, her tears blurring her vision. She didn't stop until she was outside, gulping in the cool night air. Her heart screamed with questions. Why didn't she tell me? Why keep it a secret? Does she really want me? Or am I just another mistake? The mansion loomed behind her, but Karen couldn't bear to return inside. Not tonight. Not with the weight of a truth she wasn't ready to face. And so she disappeared into the night, leaving Christine and Steve unaware that their secret had already been heard. The morning sun spilled its golden light across the Harold estate, but the warmth outside could not reach Christine's heart. She sat by the window in her bedroom, staring out at the gardens, her fingers nervously twisting the hem of her nightgown. The emptiness in the house was deafening. Karen hadn't returned. Christine had barely slept after discovering that her daughter, her own flesh and blood, had overheard the truth and fled into the night. Her pillow was still damp from tears, her chest still heavy with regret. Steve entered quietly, carrying a tray of breakfast she hadn't asked for. You need to eat something, Christine, he urged gently. She shook her head. I can't. Not until I find her. Not until I make things right. Steve set the tray down and crouched beside her, taking her trembling hands into his. You will. But you can't keep punishing yourself. This isn't your fault. Christine's eyes filled with fresh tears. Isn't it? I gave her up. I abandoned her once, and now she thinks I wanted to keep the truth from her. Steve cupped her face tenderly. You were a scared teenager back then, Christine. You made the hardest decision any mother could make, and now fate has brought her back to you. That's not abandonment. It's a second chance. You just have to take it. Christine nodded weakly, but inside her heart was breaking. All she wanted was to hold Karen in her arms and tell her everything. Meanwhile, Karen sat alone at a quiet park across town, her knees drawn up to her chest. The sound of children playing nearby only deepened her turmoil. She'd always imagined what it would feel like to find her mother. She thought it would be a joyous moment, a happy reunion filled with tears and laughter. But this felt like betrayal. Her thoughts were a storm. She's my mother? The woman I've been working for, cleaning for, living under her roof without even knowing, and she didn't tell me? Karen hugged her knees tighter, her chest aching. She thought about her childhood, lonely foster homes, the ache of never belonging, the nights she cried herself to sleep wondering if her mother ever thought of her. Now the truth was staring her in the face, and it hurt more than the years of not knowing. Why didn't she just tell me? She whispered to herself, her voice cracking. Why keep it a secret? Was she ashamed of me? Tears blurred her vision, but she didn't wipe them away. For the first time in years, she felt like a little girl again, lost, unwanted, abandoned. Back at the mansion, Christine could no longer sit still. I have to find her, she said suddenly, standing. Steve rose with her. Then let's go. We'll search every corner of the city if we have to. No, Christine said, determination flickering in her eyes. This is something I have to do myself. She needs to hear it from me. She needs to know the truth directly, not through whispers behind doors. Steve studied her, then nodded slowly. Then go. But remember, you don't have to be perfect. Just be honest. She'll see your heart. Christine kissed his cheek softly before leaving, her resolve firm. It didn't take long to find Karen. Something in Christine's heart guided her steps to the very park where her daughter sat. As Christine approached, she saw Karen's figure on the bench, shoulders hunched, head bowed, her posture heavy with sorrow. Christine's throat tightened. For a moment she just stood there, overwhelmed by the sight. My daughter, she thought. My baby girl. Slowly she walked forward. Karen, she said softly. Karen's head shot up, her eyes red from crying. The moment she saw Christine, she stiffened. What are you doing here? Christine swallowed hard, her voice trembling. I came to find you. To explain. Please just give me a chance. Karen shook her head, pain flashing across her face. You should have told me, Christine. All this time I worked in your house, lived under your roof, and you said nothing. I had to overhear it like some dirty secret. Christine's tears spilled over. You're right. I should have told you sooner. But I was scared. Scared you'd hate me, scared I'd lose you all over again. I didn't know how to say the words. Karen looked away, her voice trembling with anger and heartbreak. Do you know what it's like? To grow up without knowing where you came from? To wonder if your mother even wanted you? I used to imagine her face every night before I went to sleep, but she was just a ghost. And now I find out she's been right in front of me? It hurts, Christine. It hurts so much. Christine fell to her knees in front of Karen, clutching her hands. I wanted you, Karen. More than anything. But I was so young. I had nothing. No money. No support. No one to help me. The man who got me pregnant abandoned me. I was terrified. And when you were born, I looked at you and knew I couldn't give you the life you deserved. So I made the most painful decision of my life. I gave you up, not because I didn't love you, but because I loved you too much. I prayed every single day that you'd find a family who could give you everything I couldn't. Karen's lips trembled as tears streamed down her cheeks. You You really prayed for me? Christine nodded fiercely. Yes. I never stopped thinking about you. Not a day went by that I didn't wonder where you were, if you were safe, if you were happy. And when I met you again, I felt something I couldn't explain. My heart recognized you, even when my mind didn't dare to believe it. The raw truth in Christine's voice broke through Karen's defenses. She saw the sincerity in her mother's eyes, the regret, the love. The anger inside her began to soften, replaced by something fragile and unfamiliar: hope. Karen whispered, I wanted to hate you. But looking at you now, I can't. Because part of me has always wanted this. To find you. To hear you say you loved me. Christine sobbed openly, pulling Karen into her arms. I love you, I always have. You're my daughter. My miracle, my second chance. For the first time, Karen allowed herself to melt into the embrace. She clung to Christine, sobbing like the child she once was, finally feeling the warmth she had longed for her entire life. Later that evening, Christine brought Karen back home. Steve greeted her warmly at the door, his face breaking into a relieved smile. Karen, he said, pulling her into a fatherly embrace. You're not our maid anymore. You're family. Our daughter. Karen's eyes widened, her voice trembling. You mean that? Steve nodded. With all my heart. You've always belonged here, you just didn't know it yet. For the first time, Karen felt something she had never known before. Belonging. Weeks passed, and the bond between mother and daughter deepened. Christine included Karen in everything. Doctor visits, family dinners, even quiet evenings by the fireplace. No longer the servant, Karen was treated as the daughter she truly was. When the day of Christine's delivery arrived, Karen was right there by her side in the hospital room. She held her mother's hand tightly as Christine endured the labor, whispering encouragement through tears. Steve stood on the other side, his strong hands supporting them both. And when the cry of a newborn filled the room, Christine's heart swelled beyond measure. She cradled the baby boy in her arms, her tears of exhaustion mingled with tears of joy. Karen leaned over, gazing at her little brother. Her heart softened as she whispered, He's beautiful. Christine looked at her daughter through tear-streaked cheeks. You're both beautiful. I never thought I'd have this chance, to hold my baby again, and to have you with me. Steve wrapped his arms around them, his voice thick with emotion. We're a family now, finally complete. Karen smiled through her tears, kissing her mother's cheek. I never thought I'd find my real mother, but I found more than that. I found a family. And in that moment, the past no longer held them captive. Love had bridged the years of pain, binding them together forever. Thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. Your love, comments, and shares mean everything to me. Grateful for each of you. Let's keep growing together. With love,